Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Abiha Mohsin Amira, and today I'd like to make things clear as possible in order for you guys to understand this chapter as easily. Okay, so I'll begin by explaining variation because variation is fundamental to inheritance and evolution, right? So first, what is variation? Variation is defined as the difference between individuals of the same species. What did I say? Indifference. Difference between individuals individuals of the same species. So, okay, this is for variation. So what's variation? Variation is the difference between individuals of the same species. Okay, the differences are known as phenotypical variation. Okay, what is phenotypical variation? Now, phenotypical variation means the difference we can observe in physical characteristics or measurable characteristics of something. Okay, what I mean by that is যে একটা জিনিস দেখতে কেমন বা কি সেটার দ্বারা আমরা phenotypical variation আমরা বুঝি, ঠিক আছে? Now, phenotypical variation can arise in two main ways. Firstly, it can be genetic, where the differences are controlled entirely by a gene. I hope you understand. If I give you an example, like example for genetic variation in human includes blood group, eye color, the ability to roll their tongue, or whether earlobe is fixed or free. Okay? Secondly, phenotypical variation can be environmental. This refers to differences caused by a factor outside the organism, okay? Example, if I say of environmental factors can include climate, then a person's diet, lifestyle, culture, and even accidents during a person's lifetime. Now, environmental influences, what are those things? When we use the term environmental, we simply mean anything external to the organism. For example, an accident may lead to permanent scarring on a person's body. Eating too much food and living a sedentary lifestyle can result in weight gain. Being raised in a particular country affects the language you speak and accent you develop. Similarly, a plant growing in the shade of a large tree will grow taller as it stretches towards the available light. These examples show that not all variation is inherited. Sometimes, like the experiences and from your surrounding environment, affects the life that a person or a species inherits or gets. Now, types of phenotypical variation. Phenotypical variations can be divided into two main parts, depending on how the data can be grouped or measured. The two types are continuous variation and discontinuous variation. Okay, so what's continuous variation? Continuous variation occurs when a characteristic shows a wide range of values with many small differences between individuals. Okay, these characteristics can usually be measured on a scale or arranged in an order. Some common example includes height, body mass, finger length. These are immediate values rather than clear-cut categories. This means that, like, if you ever listen to the word continuous variation, always remember it means height, body mass, finger length, then like the outer characteristics of a person that we can see. Continuous variation is usually caused by a combination of genetic and environmental factors. For instance, tall parents are likely to pass genes of height to their children, giving them the genetic potential to be tall. However, if those children have a poor diet or suffer illness, they may not reach their full height potential. This shows how both genes and environment interact. When continuous variation data is plotted on a graph, it produces a smooth line, bell-shaped curve. Height is a classical example of this pattern. So that's probably what I would think is enough for continuous variation. I hope you get the idea what continuous variation is. Now, I want to talk about discontinuous variation. In contrast, discontinuous variation shows clear, distinct categories with no intermediate values. For example, a person is either blood group A, B, AB, or O. Similarly, a person is either a male or a female, and they can either roll their tongue or they cannot. Seed shape and seed color in peas are also examples of discontinuous variation. Discontinuous variation is usually caused by genetic factors almost, like often controlled by a single gene. When this type of data is presented graphically, it is shown using bar charts rather than a smooth curve, as we saw in continuous variation. I hope you guys know what a bar chart and a smooth curve is. Okay. Then if I tell you about an investigation, like suppose you have a bunch of snails, okay? To investigate variation, scientists often study real populations. Like a good example of this continuous variation is polymorphism in snail. What does that mean is two snails of the same species from the same genus, like Carpella, are commonly found in woodland and grass habitat in the UK. These snails show polymorphic variation, meaning they occur in multiple distinct forms. There are four observed shell patterns: pink or brown, pale, yellow pale, pink or brown striped, and yellow striped. What I mean by this is this snail lives in a particular area, but they are of many different types. That's this continuous variation. Okay. Now, okay, I'll say this is about continuous and discontinuous variation. Now, what I want to talk about is DNA. What is a DNA? DNA or deoxyribonucleic acid is a molecule that continues the instruction for growth, development, and functioning of all living organisms. DNA is found in the nucleus of cells and then organized into chromosomes. Now, what is a DNA? If I tell you, DNA is a double helix structure, which means it looks something like this. It's almost like we usually call it as a twisted ladder. Okay, DNA is a double helix structure. Where is it actually present? So suppose this is our cell, this is our nucleus, these are some organelles in there, then mitochondria, that's suppose an animal cell, okay? This is the nucleus. Inside this nucleus, there are small stuff which are known as chromosomes. So if I draw a chromosome, like suppose like this is suppose a chromosome, and inside the chromosome there is stuff like this, like a strand. And this strand is known as DNA, okay? This is a DNA strand, and a part of this DNA strand is this, which I drew here. It's a double-headed structure with stuff coming like this, which I will tell about later, but you just need to know about this. Now if I talk about the structure of a DNA, the structure of a DNA consists of two strands wounded around each other to form a double helix. The basic unit of a DNA is known as a nucleotide. Then each nucleotide contains a phosphate group, a deoxyribose sugar, and a base pairing. While the phosphates and sugar are the same in all nucleotides. The base difference are four base are the base is diff sorry, what I mean is that the phosphate and sugar are all same in all nucleotides, but the base differs. There are four bases. They are A, T, G, and C. You don't need to know the full forms of those, but the full forms are adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine. Okay? So if I tell you what actually happens in a DNA, let me draw it. This is a double helix structure. Then inside this, there are structures like this. Okay? And these structures are named differently. Our name, suppose this is T, this is A, this is G, and this is C. A is always paired with T, and T is always paired with A. G is always paired with C, and C is always paired with G. Means T is always with A, and G is always with C, and vice versa. Now, if I draw this, suppose this is our T and this is our A. I drew this part, okay? This thing I drew it here. They are connected with this bond. Now, this bond here is known as hydrogen bond, and this is our base, and this whole thing here is our base pair. And yeah, and this, yeah, that's about it. Then the base pair is I already said about this, that the base pair in a specific way, the bases pair in a specific way. Adenine pairs with thymine, and cytosine always pair with guanine. What I mean is the thing that I said here, which is A always pairs with T, T always pair with A, G always pairs with C, C always pairs with G. Okay. Um, that's about it for DNA, except the sugars and phosphate groups form the backbone of the DNA strand, similarly to the side of a ladder, while the paired bases from the rung. I'll provide you the note of this, and you'll probably be more clear about this after you see the proper diagram. I hope just you get what I want to tell you. Now, what's the importance of the base sequence? In is the sequence of the like it is a sequence of these bases that carry the genetic code. This sequence determines how proteins are made, and proteins uh, ultimately control the structure and the function in a cell. So if I tell you, it is like the main code of forming your, like, is the main code that helps your body run. Okay, so like, yeah, that's about it for gene, I suppose. Gene, that's about it for DNA.